$150,000 research grant to pinpoint food deserts and food swamps throughout the state of North Carolina using Geographic Information System. The award, part of a $417,000 plus 3-year grant funding research by the Department of Environmental, Earth, and Geospatial Science to identify communities where residents have inadequate access to healthy food. NC Central Associate Professor Chris McGinn and Assistant Professor Timothy Mulrooney are leading the project. Chris McGinn, fortunate enough to join us today here on the Afternoon News. Chris, first of all, thanks for taking some time out for us.
Hey, I appreciate you having me.
And talk about this grant. What is it going to enable you to do when it comes to these food deserts and food swamps? We'll get to those in a minute, but what are you going to be able to do with this grant money?
Sure. So the first year plan that we have is to actually develop a survey of what kind of data layers will be available for other people that are doing research in the field. So we want to kind of accumulate those GIS data layers so that, again, we put together a comprehensive database that other people could access this information to do other aspects of analysis. We also want to develop a kind of quality assurance, quality control program for the data that we're using, because a lot of the data that we're using to identify these food deserts and food swamps come from what they call NAICS codes or census data. So during the course of the summer, we're going to go out and do kind of ground truthing to see how accurate that data is, how many supermarkets are still there, or how many vegetable stands still exist, because as you know, most of the census data is kind of on a temporal basis only every 4 or 5 years. So that's the first year plan for the program. And then as we get further in the program over the next 2 years, we hope to do deeper analysis as to the socioeconomics and some of the causes and some of the things that we can do to try to eliminate some of these food deserts and food swamps.
Yeah, the problems are nothing new, but many of our listeners may be unfamiliar with the terms food deserts and food swamps. So exactly what does that describe?
So a food desert, according to the USDA, is essentially described as an area that has limited access to food for an active, healthy lifestyle. So it doesn't necessarily mean that you don't have access to food, but typically it has limited access to healthy foods, and typically it has something to do with you actually making trade-offs, choosing to have to pay, utility bills instead of buying food, or buying food instead of paying utility bills. So areas of the state that these are the economic trade-offs that people have to make, as well as they have limited access to again, the healthy lifestyle foods. Food swamp gets more specific,
okay,
and that describes the areas where there's actually an inequitable distribution of unhealthy options versus those healthy options. So the food swamps really gets to, there's way more unhealthy options than there are healthy options, and there's just limited options in general to access to good food. So there's a number of different aspects the USDA has gone through with these different definitions, because there's food access and then food utilization and all kinds of things. But we're focusing on what areas have trouble accessing healthy food adequately, and then in what areas are there just overwhelmingly too many bad food options that overwhelm those healthy options.
Why in 2016 does North Carolina still have such a high rate of when it comes to food insecurity?
Probably simply because of economics. Realistically, when we get down to where we're going to have healthy food stands, where we're going to have supermarkets that have those healthy options, it still comes down to the economics of these corporations or these businesses and where they're going to locate. And a lot of our study is focused on the rural Southeastern North Carolina, 11-county area around Fayetteville, and just the socioeconomics of that area as far as the population goes, the limited population density that's out there. A lot of times it's not worth the bang for the buck to put a Food Lion or a Harris Teeter or something along those lines in these areas, because you really don't turn a profit. So a lot of times that's what it comes down to.
Fayetteville, you mentioned the southeastern parts of North Carolina. Are there other areas concentrated with the food deserts that you guys are focusing on?
We're starting this kind of almost a pilot program with this 11-county study area. We have a couple papers in review that focus on this 11-county study area, including Columbus County and Robeson County and some of those poorer counties in southeastern North Carolina. But we hope to expand with this grant over the next couple of years. We hope to expand that to do the whole county or statewide study. Preliminary looking at other parts, it is equivalent, and we have the same issues in northeastern North Carolina, Bertie County and Hertford County, and some of those places that are actually counties with majority populations. So we look at places that have similar, again, socioeconomics with regards to population density, and then with regards to the economics of the populations living there. A lot of the urban areas, if we're talking about Raleigh, Durham, Charlotte, Greensboro, those places, totally different dynamics that goes into those just because of the population densities. So we'll start with Southeastern North Carolina, probably move our way to Northeastern North Carolina, and then do similar studies up in the mountains because, again, although the racial makeup may be a little bit different, the economic makeup is generally the same in those areas.
Yeah, when it comes to food insecurity, North Carolina, more than 26% of our children under the age of 18 at risk of nutritional deficiencies. That's according to the North Carolina Association of Food Banks. So that shows you just right there when it comes to the health of our children how important this study is.
Correct, exactly. And a lot of times what it comes down to is, first of all, you have limited access. You have limited means of transportation to get to places that may be farther away in these rural areas. And then realistically, when it comes down to economics, if you can go to Burger King and get 10 chicken nuggets for $1.29, sometimes that's, a lot makes more economic sense than going to, Trader Joe's or Whole Foods and paying higher amounts of money for typically more healthy food.
You're also partnering with researchers at NC State. They're at least working on the initiative titled Geospatial Tools and Analysis to Assess, Educate, and Inform Spatial Dimensions of Rural Food Insecurity. That's difficult to say, but I'm sure it's a more difficult solution as well.
Correct. Yeah, the team we have, Kathy Baratan, is from NC State. She handles more of that practical aspect of working with Second Harvest Food Bank down in the Southeastern North Carolina. Dr. Mulrooney, who's the lead on the grant, handles the technical side of using the different GIS techniques. And I'm more of the human geographer that handles kind of the socioeconomic side. What are some of the factors that are shaping these different things? So we have a pretty comprehensive group that hopefully we could come up with some pretty comprehensive results or analysis that we could help these food banks and these mobile food units that are trying to address these issues.
Well, the U.S. Department of Agriculture awarding North Carolina Central University a $150,000 research grant to pinpoint food deserts and food swamps throughout the state using Geographic Information Systems. North Carolina Central University Associate Professor Chris McGinn has been kind enough to join us. Chris, before I let you go, is there anything else that we may not have touched on that you'd like to get out there, or how folks may be able to get involved in helping out?
No, but of course, in the next 3 years, you can take a look. Our department's trying to do some community mapping projects that will help assess the information, allow people to contribute some of the knowledge that's just out there in the community. So that's one of the steps of the grant that we plan on doing. So you can look around this region, and we'll be down in Southeastern North Carolina on the ground trying to get information from the public with different surveys and different questions. So any information that we could gather from the public would be a great help.
North Carolina Central Associate Professor Chris McGinn, thank you so much, Chris. We'll talk with you soon and let us know any way we can help.
Thank you. Appreciate your time.
All right, and still to come here on the